California has bucked his immigration agenda, but President Trump is expected to make a trip there to look at prototypes for his border wall. His first visit in office to the state is scheduled for mid-March. Meanwhile, a U.S. district judge once criticized by the president ruled in favor of his wall today. Gonzalo Curiel ruled the administration can continue waiving environmental laws to proceed. That news comes as the DACA debate rages on.
We thought that the president's main goal was to build a wall from sea to shining sea, a 19th century answer to a 21st century problem.
Right.
It turns out his goal is the deportation of dreamers.
So immigration's still big, and Jesse, Mark Meadows, the congressman from North Carolina, has told Speaker Paul Ryan that they must vote on the Goodlatte bill or else his speakership could be in danger. So there's lots of movement on immigration.
There is, but the judge's ruling on DACA definitely takes a little leverage away from the president when he negotiates the wall. But the wall will be built. It'll be beautiful, and Mexico, Juan, will still pay for it. Just so everybody knows, there's about a 2,000-mile border with Mexico and the United States. Because of the Rio Grande and the mountains and all that stuff and the virtual fence, you only really need about 800 miles of border wall. There's already 500 miles constructed. They want to improve upon that and add an additional 300. Now, the Tucson sector chief says when they put the fence up, illegal crossings dropped 95%. But what that does is it pushes it down to another sector. So it pushed it to the Yuma sector where you're seeing a lot of illegal crossings. The prototypes look good, though. They're about 24 to 30 feet high. You're going to be able to see through them, and they're impenetrable. You had U.S. Special Forces try to scale them, blow torch through them. They couldn't do it. It became so dangerous, the testing, that they had to stop doing it. And he's going to go down there, and he's going to try to, you know, like an architect would try to look at the specs and take a look, and he's going to have maybe a hard hat on, and it's going to be a great photo op, but it looks like it's making progress.
Yeah, I think more than a photo op, Juan, and especially with this judicial ruling that they can move forward, because the environmentalists have tried to stop progress on a lot of these construction projects, and not just at the border, but across the country. But Curiel saying it's a go.
No, Curiel said there's no basis for the courts to stop it.
Right.
I think the politics is a whole different box of wax. And by the way, I think the Mexican president had just had a very difficult conversation with President Trump about paying for the wall. It was so difficult. Again, for the second time, he's canceled the trip to visit the White House.
Could be a language issue.
Oh, it's a language issue.
There's still ways to pay
it
for
could
it.
be.
I think
you know
that's
what?
right.
You know what strikes me is you had like 200 Catholic nuns, priests in Russell protesting, singing, standing up for the Dreamers. People saying this is just not acceptable. You saw out there just a moment ago. Dick Durbin, the #2 Democrat in the Senate, saying what appears now is that the president is just trying to stop the Dreamers, because it's not only the Dreamers, he's trying to cut legal immigration.
But
that would be the result of merit-based immigration.
But Kimberly, do you think that even though this deadline now is not really looming about the Dreamers, do you think the president, which we haven't heard from him yet, is he going to try to continue to try to push Congress to do something this year, or wait for the courts to play it out?
Look, I think he's got to continue to try to push Congress. The courts are going to do what they're going to do. Today, this was a victory for the president coming from Judge Curiel. And it certainly is. The courts aren't going to stop it. California had been quite vocal in trying to stop the president on environmental grounds from getting the wall up. But this is really symbolic, I think, of President Trump's, not only just his campaign, but his presidency, that he made this promise. It's actually like a physical, tangible thing that people can go and look at to say, okay, he made this promise. He's running for re-election. He's announced it. He better get that wall up and start it. So I think that's why we're seeing such focus and emphasis on it. And then it has the tie-in piece, as you aptly point out, with DACA and with immigration. And I think he's going to try to be compassionate about it and work with both sides. And they're going to get boxed in again if they don't try to come to the table and at least meet him partway on it.
But if this is about politics, Kimberly, just say it. It's not about
I think this is what he believes, and I think it is about national security. I think that's a big piece of what he campaigned on, that we have to make America safe again, that we have to make American borders, that aren't penetrable, that aren't porous, that people aren't coming in, that are criminal recidivists, that are taking, hiding in sanctuary cities, taking cover, and then committing crimes against Americans, legal citizens, etc. There's a path to citizenship. There's a way to do this. You should do it like everybody else did, and you shouldn't come in here and try and cut the line and commit crimes and get back and forth because we don't enforce the laws that are on the books. Put up the wall and tighten it up.
No, when
Greg,
you
maybe
said,
I was going to get Greg in here before we have to go. Maybe California secretly wants the wall.
You know,
They have to say they don't want it, but inside they're thinking this might not be a bad
all
idea.
it is really is a vertical highway. I mean, it's just a highway that you just push up. If we did just had sold it as a highway, that would have been a better
wall.
idea. Not a wall. That was my original.
Highway to nowhere?
Yeah, but the thing is, what if Trump plays this right? He is proving that the Democrats don't see people at all. They just see power. Because what he's actually doing is something very compassionate. There's nothing better than a wall. Good fences make good neighbors, and legal, lawful immigrants should appreciate that. All he's saying is he wants an enforced system, and 1.7 million people can stay. That's pretty compassionate. Yep. What the Dems are saying is the Dreamers can dream on because it's not coming from us. The Democrats are ticked off because he might come up with the solution and reverse a false perception that the Democrats have capitalized forever, that they are compassionate and that Republicans aren't compassionate. And if Trump ends up becoming the pro-dreamer, the pro-immigrant, that's going to reverse a polarity that's been around for a long time, and it could be a really big deal. And it helps that there is no deadline. I really do think that helps.
You do?
Well,
I can't decide. I'm of mixed mind on that, and I will continue to think about it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it
and again, we could sell California to Mexico.
Everybody loves that. All
Larry
right, some
Kudlow liked that
companies have
yesterday.
severed ties with the NRA after the Parkland school massacre, but FedEx isn't caving to that pressure. That's next.
Girl, shake it for